Welcome to a special edition of Wall Street Week, the show of record for long-term investing. I'm Anthony Scaramucci. We're coming to you from the site of the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio. On this week's show, we'll be discussing economic themes from this convention with top business leaders from across America. Up first, I caught up with CKE Restaurant CEO Andy Puzder on the delegate floor. He told us what he wants to see from the next president to make our economy stronger.
I think our country's really gone in a very, very bad direction over the past 7 years, where we've been a country traditionally where consumers drive the economy. We've now become one where the government is more and more involved in driving the economy and taking the power away from consumers.
Okay, so tell us why that's a bad thing.
Well, it's a bad thing because people, small groups of people, no matter how bright they are and no matter how smart they think they are, they can't guide the economy as effectively as millions and millions of people making decisions every day with every dollar they spend. In other words, an economic form of democracy where you vote every time you buy something. When the government gets involved, it picks favorites. It'll pick a favorite that could easily fail. For example, when Apple was starting, what if the government had subsidized IBM? Would Apple have ever been able to get off the ground? What if they chose another computer company that we haven't even heard of because it failed as opposed to Apple?
So how do we straighten it out, Andy? What do we have to do? What steps have to be taken to improve the growth and improve the living standards for middle-class families and lower middle-class families?
We need a president who understands that what we need are policies that encourage growth. When we have growth, we have jobs increase and incomes increase, because when employees stop competing with each other for jobs and employers start competing for employees, then salaries go up. So the more jobs you have, the higher salaries are going to go. You don't need a fake mandate to take salaries up. You don't need the government creating jobs. You need pro-growth policies. Trump has a pro-growth tax plan, which will encourage capital investment, encourage money coming back in this country. Hillary Clinton has an income redistribution tax plan. Trump has a positive energy plan. All of the above can make America energy independent by 2020. Hillary Clinton, it's a climate change energy policy. And when it comes to regulation, look, you're from New York. Donald Trump builds buildings in New York. This guy gets over regulation.
So you have an historical perspective on the United States. So I want you to pretend that it's 50 years from now, and as a historian, what would you be writing about the Donald Trump ascendancy, his candidacy, and rise to this nomination?
Well, he gave our American entrepreneurs the ability to once again grow the economy, which began to reduce the debt, created jobs, reduced domestic what domestic disturbances we're having, the unrest domestically, because people had jobs, were able to earn their success. He made us powerful overseas by strengthening our economy, and he reduced the size of government, returning power to the American people.
Okay, but you hit on something that I want to hammer down. Less violence is less poverty. Less poverty, less violence. Is that true?
That's true, and there's only one system in the history of the world that significantly reduces poverty and increases opportunity. That's free market capitalism, and Donald Trump gets that.
Okay, but why does free market capitalism is so successful at that? Explain that if you can.
Because it allows every person to achieve to their maximum potential. You've got the opportunity to be whatever you want to be. Look, my dad sold cars. I put myself through college and law school, and now I'm the CEO of an international corporation. There is no country in the history of the world where a working class kid like me would have had these opportunities.
You know, in the Navy, they have an expression called kavu.
Or you, by the way.
Well, there's no question. I'm the product of an American capitalist system, but also I would say an energetic government, because I'm also the product of a public education in the K through 12 school system.
So am I.
And so we do need government as a complement to the free markets. But what the Navy says is kavu, Andy, ceiling and visibility unlimited, and that's what free market capitalism provides people.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And we've got a presidential candidate who gets that, and a presidential candidate who wouldn't, on her best day, understand half of that.
So if you were outside of the bubble of Washington, in which you are, what would be one thing you'd want to do on January 21st, 2017 to improve the lot of the most amount of Americans?
Well, first of all, we need to simplify the tax code, but you can't do that on day one. But what you could do on day one, if you were President of the United States, is say, I want every head of every agency to bring me a list of their regulations, list them in importance from the most important to the least important, and the bottom 10% are gone. The next 10%, you got to explain why you need them.